it's Thursday, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a big chameleon. Okay, let's talk tools and materials. So to make your full-sized chameleon today, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in at least one color, but as many as 3. So today I have green for my main color, and that's the only color that's really strictly necessary. And then I have an accent color, and for me that's going to be this rainbow color changing yarn, and we're going to use that to add the little stripy details at the end. But that's all. That's the only job that particular yarn has. So you can use really any color that you like. Then I also have a little bit of pink here, and that is because one of the optional features on this fellow is a tongue. So if you would like to make a tongue, also have some pink handy. So you may notice that I've had a hard time deciding between like realistic eyes and just like cute eyes. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do both. So if you want the cute eyes, you're going to need a pair of 20mm safety eyes. And if you want to do like the realistic eyes, you're going to need a pair of 9mm safety eyes. You're also going to need a 3.5mm hook, pins and needles, scissors, and some stuffing. But that's it. I also suggest that you have some bobby pins or stitch markers handy, just because if you start having trouble with the shaping of those legs, these can be a game changer. So I'm going to have a couple on hand just in case I need them. I'm also going to be using one to mark the end of my row to help us all keep track. A written version of today's pattern will be made available on my Etsy as well as listed on my Patreon, so I will leave links to both in the description down below for anybody who's interested. So you may remember this little guy from the 12 Days of Crochet. He was definitely one of my favourite patterns coming out of that series last year, and I decided to double him, which ended up like this. And while I liked this, it wasn't quite what I had in mind. So I've gone back to the drawing board and made a couple of alterations. The body is basically the same. We fixed the tail up a little bit. The biggest changes have come with the head, which does mean that this is no longer a like no-sew or low-sew pattern like the original was. We do have to sew this face piece on at the end, and we also have to sew like the eyes and the tongue, if you want to have one, on as well. So we're going to start by making the body, and the body starts here at the tip of the jaw, and then we work up into the main swell of the body. The legs are created as we go, finishing all the way at the tip of this spiraling tail. So this is the biggest piece of today. This is just a quick reminder that this is a complicated knots pattern, meaning I will be focusing on the tricky stuff and kind of like glancing over the easier stuff. Okay, so starting in my green, we're going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochet. We're then going to work 2 repeats of a single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and a single crochet. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that again. Single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and a single crochet. Now that should leave you with this little oval that is 10 stitches around. We're then going to work 4 rows of 10 single crochet around for a combined total of 40 stitches. And one thing that I do think is quite fun about this particular chameleon is because we make this body all in one piece, including the legs and the tail, it opens up some opportunities for you guys to work some color changes if you wanted to create some stripes and that sort of thing. I'm keeping it pretty simple today because based on what I've seen online, it looks like some of you are quite excited to use your own color changing yarn for this, and so the color changes, doing the color changes manually kind of became superfluous. So there we are at the end of row 6. We should still have 10 stitches in our round, and that makes up the whole like lower jaw. Rawr. So in row 7, we need to start building up the back of this lower jaw so that we can like curve it up into the body shape that we need. So we're going to start with 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And just in case you needed some orientation here, if you flatten it now with your like active loop on forming one edge, that is the correct orientation. So this is going to be the top of the head, and this is going to be the underside or the belly. So now we are oriented. We can continue row 7 by working 5 increases. That's 1. And you may notice that I work my increases as invisible increases, and all that means is I'm working the first stitch of the increase through the front loop only, and then the second stitch of the increase through both loops. This is just a personal preference thing. I prefer the way that that stitch ends up looking on a finished piece. If you want to do standard increases, where you just work both stitches through both loops of the stitch, that should work just fine. And with those done, it's just 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3. So he's currently just sort of sticking his tongue out. Blah. Row 8 starts with 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, an increase. 2 single crochet. 1 and 2, an increase. 1 single crochet, an increase. 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, an increase, and then 3 single crochet back to the starting point. 1, 2, and 3, leaving you with 19 stitches in your round. Row 9 starts with 7 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. Then an increase, a single crochet, 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, one single crochet, an increase, and then 7 single crochet back to the start. 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7, leaving you with 23 stitches in your round. And we're now going to work 2 rows of 23 single crochet for a combined total of 46 stitches. And I've been asked occasionally, why do I include a combined total? And that's just because sometimes I find it easier to count once to 46 than twice to 23. But you should do it whichever way makes sense to you. There we go. So I know this looks a little weird at the moment, but it is coming together. So in row 12, 13, 14, and 15, we're going to build the front legs. And they're worked by making basically a big increase along the front. And then when we get to the back of them, we skip and just sew the back of the leg shut. So row 12 is going to start with 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, which will lead us to the start of our first leg. And you'll note that that is slightly off to one side of the side of this jaw. If yours is falling like further up the side here, you can frog back until you're kind of in a better position. Or if yours is falling further under the belly, you can work additional single crochet to kind of push it out to one edge. If yours is looking approximately correct, I do encourage you to kind of just like go with it and see if it turns out in the right spot before you start fiddling with it. I include instructions like this just because sometimes stitch tension, even just like slight variations in yarn size, can make a huge difference as to like what we call the drift of a pattern, where things end up like spiraling around a little bit. So this is one of those places where you can pretty easily correct it. But when the next stitch of your body is where you want the front leg to sit, we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, creating a little paddler. Being careful not to lose the next stitch of the round that falls after it. Sometimes this like curves over and like covers it up. We don't want that to happen. And we're going to work 7 single crochet up the side. Then an increase, which should fall basically in the middle of the top of the back. And then it's 6 single crochet down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, leading me to where I'm going to be placing my second leg, which once again is quite a ways up the side. But if you've positioned your first leg correctly, your second leg should just like fall into place as you've worked your stitches. So we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch again. And then 4 single crochet back to the start of our round. Bringing us to the end of round 12, and you should have 32 stitches in your round. You should have the underside of your jaw sticking out obstinately, and you should have 2 little feet sticking out on either corner. All right, and then row 13 starts with 5 single crochet, bringing us to the middle stitch of the 5 single crochet into the same stitch from the previous round, and we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch. Once again, being sure not to lose the next stitch of your round, and you are welcome to like mark it temporarily before you work your massive increase, just so that you can definitely find it afterwards. It can be helpful. We're going to work 9 single crochet up the side. 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. So the next 2 stitches were the increase from the previous round, and we're going to work 3 single crochet into the same stitch. And then 9 single crochet down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9. So once again, that brings us to the middle stitch of the 5 single crochet into the same stitch that we did in the previous round, and we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch. But that technique for making sure you don't lose a stitch is just basically, we're going to work our stitches into the next stitch of the round, so the one after that, I'm just going to mark so that I can find it, work my 5 single crochet into the stitch that they're supposed to go into. Stop being annoying, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now no matter how much this tries to gobble up the next stitch after it, I can always find it because I have marked it and I know it is right here. And we're basically just going to work 6 single crochet back to the start of our round. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, leaving us with 42 stitches in our round. So row 14 is then basically the same thing again. The number of single crochet that we work has to adjust slightly because of course we are getting bigger, and it should leave you with 52 stitches in your round. So there we go. And I do recommend that you stop and count at this point and make sure that you have 52 stitches in your round. But there is our little chameleon portal as he's summoned into this plane of existence. And in row 15, we are going to be forming the toes at the end of each of the legs. So this, I believe this is the hardest row of the whole pattern. So we're going to start by working 9 single crochet. 2, 3, 8, and 9. Now, because this piece is so tricky, I'm going to show you a way of doing it that uses a lot of stitch markers for the first leg, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like when you do it without using any stitch markers for the second leg, so you guys can kind of pick which way is going to work for you. So just have like a bundle of these handy. So we're going to be forming the toes next, and the next stitch of our round is the middle stitch of the 5 single crochet we worked all into the same stitch. So I'm going to take my first stitch marker and not mark the next stitch of the round, but mark the one after that, so that we don't lose it in all the excitement of giving him toes. Then into the next stitch of our round, I'm going to work 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and I'm going to mark both of those. I'm then going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and this fourth one I'm going to pull quite tightly. I apparently pull my turning chains quite tightly, so if you felt like following suit, you can as well. I'm going to turn, and starting in the second chain from my hook, I'm going to work 3 slip stitches down those chains. So 1, 2, and 3. So that's our first little toe. Then going back to working into the same stitch, we're going to work another single crochet, and I'm going to take a stitch marker and I'm going to mark it so that I can find it really easily next round. I'm then going to build the second little toe. So we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one quite tight. Turn and work 3 slip stitches down those chains. 1, 2, and 3. And we have 2 more single crochet to work into that same stitch. So you'll see there that the next stitch of the round is still marked and we haven't used it. That's important. So 1 and 2. And I'm going to mark both of those as well. So this is kind of like these feet on easy mode. So that is the foot crafted. We've added 5 single crochet into the same stitch. We've just also added 2 wibbly wobbly toes in between. So we are then going to work 31 single crochet around to the other leg. So now we can start in the next row of our round, which we marked. I'm just going to remove that now. 1, 2, 3, 29, 30, 31. So we are now in the middle stitch of the 5 single crochet into the same stitch for the other leg. And I'm going to build the exact same foot, but I'm going to do it without using stitch markers. So all into the same stitch, it's 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, chaining 4, pulling the 4th chain tightly, turning and working 3 slip stitches down the chains, a single crochet into the same stitch, chain 4 again, 3 slip stitches down those chains, and then 2 more single crochet into the same stitch, 1 and 2, being careful not to lose the first stitch after it, and work 10 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. So there we are at the end of row 15. And we are summoning something from the frog dimension. So you'll note that one leg is like withering out to this side and the other one is like wavering downwards. So that is what those feet look like, both without stitch markers and with the 5 stitches marked. Okay, so row 16 means we're going to be closing off the backs of each of these legs and making them look a little bit more like this. So we're going to start with 2 single crochet. 1 and 2, then an increase, 1, 2, then we're going to skip 17 stitches. So that will be 8 stitches up to the edge of the first toe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1 in between the toes for 9, and then 8 down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's the 18th stitch from our current position, but the 9th stitch down from the second toe, where we are going to be working our next stitch. So you see there how marking those stitches made it really easy to count them. Otherwise, you're kind of left with like a little bit of like, ooh, what counts as a stitch and what doesn't. Marking them takes all the guesswork out of it. And we're going to work 9 single crochet up the side. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. 9 single crochet down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9. Bringing us to our second leg, even though I know we're only halfway up the side, and we're going to skip 17 more stitches. So again, it's 8 stitches up to the first toe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Always count as well, just to check. Even if you know that it should be 8 stitches, you just count to check. 1 in between those toes, so that's 9, and then 8 down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is the 18th stitch from our hook, or the 9th stitch down from the second toe is where our next stitch is going to go, and we're going to work an increase, 1, 2 into the same stitch, and then 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, taking our round from 60 stitches down to 30, just like that. I'm going to take all of his leg piercings out now. There we go. Now, I know they're a little bit of a fillet at the moment, but when we sew them together, we'll be folding them in half and just like weaving a piece of yarn up the back, or like lacing up a shoe, which will form proper leg formation. For now, don't worry too much if they're looking a little bit flappy. They kind of look like skitty ears. We're then going to work 2 rounds of 30 single crochet for a combined total of 60 stitches. So there we are at the end of row 18. In row 19, we're going to start sort of shaping the curve of the back a little bit more. And in row 19, we're going to like do the last row of just kind of this middle section before we head into the back legs. So we start with 9 single crochet, 3, 7, 8, and 9. Then an increase, 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, a single crochet 3 together, 3 single crochet, 1, 2, and 3, an increase, and then 10 single crochet back to the start of our round. And you'll notice that we still have 30 stitches. Basically, we worked as many increases as we did decreases in that round. So we've changed the shape slightly, but we have the same size opening. I would also just like to add that that single crochet 3 together we did is going to be slightly off to one side. It's just the nature of what seems to work on this particular pattern. So don't worry if yours isn't like perfectly centered. Mine is sitting just here. Okay, so we're going to now start building up the back legs. And I'm going to start with 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the next stitch of the round is where I'm going to start building my back leg. So you'll see there, it's pretty much directly behind that first one. Once again, if yours is appearing further up the side and you don't like that, you can frog back until you're level with where you think it should be. And if yours is appearing further under the belly here, you can work additional single crochet at this point to push it out to the side. Once again, that should only impact people who are having like drift or spiraling issues. For most of you, it should just be the next stitch around. And we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then 22 single crochet around. 2, 3, 21, and 22. Now you may notice that I am losing horribly a game of yarn chicken here. So I do have a little bit left here, but I am just going to attach my yarn now before we head into the next leg, just because it's going to be easier. And just by the way, I personally prefer to work it as a color change and then tie the 2 strands together at the back of the work rather than working a magic knot. When you work a magic knot, you can sometimes end up with like a lump that doesn't want to pull through and can warp some of your stitches and make them look a bit funny. Whereas like doing it this way, you guarantee that that knot always ends up on the back of the work. And if you have to frog, it does still hold together, like so. So anyway, the next stitch around, we are going to be working our next leg. And if you've positioned your first leg correctly, this one here should just fall directly in line. It is going to be slightly on the inside of where our front leg is. Just because as I work, my work does skew to the right, which will pull that leg out and into position as we go. So 5 single crochet into the same stitch. I might be giving slightly too much information that you don't need, but I think it's interesting. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1 and 2. The next 2 rows are basically the same thing again, just with different amount of single crochet as the round gets larger. So row 21 will leave you with 46 stitches in your round, and row 22 will leave you with 54 stitches in your round. But please be careful that you are not losing stitches to where we put those massive increases. They will always try and gobble the stitch next to them. So there we go. We have 54 stitches in our round at the end of row 22, and I'm sure you've counted, right? You guys are counting. And we're ready to create the little toes the exact same way we did on these front legs. So it's 10 single crochet up to the tip of the first leg. Then all into the same stitch, work 2 single crochet, chain 4, 3 slip stitches down those chains, a single crochet into the same stitch, chain 4, 3 slip stitches down those chains, and then 2 single crochet into the same stitch. 1 and 2. So that is our third feet bestowed with toes. Bestowed? The thing that made that funnier, mate, if you were a frog. Anywho, then 16 single crochet up the side. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Then a decrease. 16 single crochet down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 14, 15 and 16. Then we're going to work the final set of toes. So all into the same stitch, 2 single crochet, chain 4, 3 slip stitches, a single crochet, 4 more chains, 3 more slip stitches, and then 2 more single crochet into the same stitch. 1 and 2. Just because I got a little lazy with the description there, I'm going to remind you that all 5 of those single crochet got worked into the same stitch. And then it is just 8 single crochet back to the start of our round. There we go. So that is the end of the longest row of this project. It is 61 stitches around, but don't worry, we're going to very quickly carve it down in the next row. So we're going to start with 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to skip 17 stitches. So that's 8 up to the first toe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 is in between the toes, and then 8 up the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's the 9th stitch from the toe, but it's the 18th stitch from our hook where we're working our next stitch, and it's going to be 7 single crochet up the side. 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. Then a decrease, a single crochet 3 together, and a decrease, 7 single crochet down the other side, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. And then once again, we're going to skip 17 stitches. So that's 8 up to the first toe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 up to the first toe. 9 is in between the toes, and 8 up the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's the 9th stitch from that toe, or the 18th stitch from your hook, where we're going to work the next stitch, and it's just 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. And that has taken us from 61 stitches down to just 23. So again, your legs are going to look a little bit odd, but once they are properly paired and sewn, they will look very leggy indeed. Okay, so the final stages of this body are really just to like narrow down into the tail and then create the long tail. So row 25 is going to start with 8 single crochet. That's 2, 3, 7, and 8. Then 2 decreases, 1 and 2, and then a single crochet 3 together. And please note that the stitches for that single crochet 3 together are the single crochet 3 together from the previous round, the decrease that fell after it, and then the single crochet that fell after that. So it's a little bit like off center if you're paying close attention to where the stitches are. It's going to look completely centered if you're not paying attention, so that's perfect. Please continue to not pay that much attention. then it's 2 decreases down the other side. 1 and 2. Then it's just 4 single crochet back to the start of our row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're down to 17 stitches in our opening, and we are going to stop and stuff at this point. So important things to note here is that we're not putting any stuffing down into the legs, and we're not putting any stuffing into this little like tab jaw bit at the front. We're just stuffing this main tucko of lizard. And my fluff is kind of pre-torn up into tufts. Like this is just a cheap pillow that I'm using in this instance. But if yours is like that beautiful, really nicely condensed, dense polyester stuffing, make sure that you pull it up into tufts first and just like a couple of little puffs at a time. Fill up your lizard. And with that done, we're going to finish narrowing down into the tail. So we have row 26 starts with 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Then a single crochet 3 together. Then 2 repeats of a single crochet, a decrease, and a single crochet. So that's 1, and we're going to do that again. Single crochet, decrease, and a single crochet, and then a single crochet 3 together to finish off the round, bringing us down to 11 stitches. Then row 27 is arguably the first row of our tail. We're going to work 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then a single crochet 3 together, and 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1 and 2. So there we go. Our opening is just 9 stitches around, and we are now going to work 10 rows of 9 single crochet around for a combined total of 90 stitches. So there we are at that point, and we are just going to take a little bit of stuffing and just very lightly stuff this part of the tail, and then we're not stuffing the rest of the tail at all. So last chance for stuffing through his inbuilt bendy straw. It's probably enough. Basically you want this piece to be kind of nice and flexible. And we're now going to just finish constructing the tail. So row 38 is a decrease and then 7 single crochet around to bring us down to 8 stitches. And then 3 rows of 8 single crochet for a combined total of 24 stitches. Then row 42 is a decrease and then 6 single crochet around to bring us down to 7 stitches. Like so, and 3 rows of 7 single crochet for a combined total of 21. So we're getting nice and long now, so we're about the same length as the body, but we still have a little ways to go. So row 46 is a decrease and then 5 single crochet around to bring us down to just 6 stitches. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're down to 6 stitches. We're going to work 5 rows of 6 single crochet for a combined total of 30 stitches. That's 30 and finish off. Now that is going to leave you with a little opening at the tip of your tail, and we're just going to take the remaining strand of yarn here and pull it through the front loops only of each of the stitches around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then just pull it tight to close like a little drawstring bag and tuck that end away down inside. So there is the body base in its most basic form. And it needs a little crochet origami to turn it into what it's actually going to look like. But for now, we're going to pop this to one side. I'm going to show you how to make the head. Okay, so we're going to be making the head next. which is this funny little piece sitting on top of the bottom jaw. So in order to make this, we start at the tip of the nose, and this is honestly a pretty basic piece. We work it up as a giant triangle. So we're going to start with a magic ring of 6. Then 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. So there is our first one, and we're going to do that 2 more times to bring our round up to 9 single crochet. So that's 2 and 3. In row 3, we're going to do 3 repeats of a single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and then a single crochet. So there is our first one, and we're going to do that 2 more times to bring our round up to 15. Like so. And row 4 and 5 are basically the same thing again. So row 4 is 3 repeats of 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and then 2 single crochet to bring us up to 21. And row 5 is 3 repeats of 3 single crochet, 3 single crochet into the same stitch, and then 3 single crochet to bring our round up to 27. A happy little Dorito. Now, in row 6, we're going to start forming the sides of the mouth. So we start by working 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 single crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. So that's the first corner of the mouth. Then it's 17 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 15, 16, and 17. 3 single crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, and 4, leaving us with 31 stitches in our round. Row 7 is basically the same thing again, just with slightly higher numbers for our single crochet, but our increases are still increasing the 2 corners of the mouth, and it should leave you with 35 stitches in your round. There we go. And we're going to start closing off now. So row 8 starts with 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then a single crochet 3 together. 19 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 18 and 19. A single crochet 3 together. And 5 single crochet back to the start. 4 and 5. So in row 9, we're going to start crafting a little bit of a fin for the top of the head. So we're starting with 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. A single crochet 3 together, because we're still pulling in those corners of the mouth. 8 single crochet up the side. 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. 8 single crochet down the other side. 2, 3, 7, and 8. Single crochet 3 together. And 4 single crochet back to the start of your round. Leaving us with 29 stitches around, but just the very tiniest little tip of something starting to grow on top. Row 10 starts with 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and 3. A single crochet 3 together. 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to be working 11 half double crochet along the top. Now this is a stitch that we haven't used anywhere else in this pattern, but we're using it now because it's slightly taller than a regular single crochet, which is going to help this crest grow a little bit faster. So I'm using US crochet terms here. So a half double crochet is when you yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop of your yarn. So you've got 3 loops in total on your hook. You then yarn over and pull through all 3. So that is our first half double crochet, and we're going to work 10 more of them across for 11 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 10, and 11. There we go. Now swapping back to single crochet, we're going to work 3 single crochet down the side. 1, 2, 3. A single crochet 3 together. And 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3. Row 11 starts with a single crochet. And then we're going to work a single crochet 5 together. Now we've been working single crochet 3 together this whole time. A single crochet 5 together is the same thing, but with 5 stitches instead of 3. So there are 2 different ways to work them, just like with the single crochet 3 togethers, and I will show you both just in case. So first we have like a standard way where you insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into a third stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and do the same thing in a 4th stitch and a 5th stitch until you have 6 loops in total on your hook, then yarn over and pull through all 6, forming a single crochet 5 together or a decrease over 5 stitches. So that is a perfectly fine way to work this stitch if that's how you prefer. I personally prefer to do the invisible method, which you would have been seeing me do this whole time. And that is you pick up just the front loops of the stitches you want to decrease over, in this case 5 of them, then yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with just 2 loops on your hook. Then you yarn over and complete the stitch. And it turns out kind of just a little bit smaller, and I just prefer the look of this kind of stitch, but you can do it either way. So there is our first single crochet 5 together. We are then going to work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 7 half double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Please tell me I hit record. I did. Whew. 4 and 7, 3 single crochet down the side, 1, 2, 3, and then another single crochet 5 together. And however you work the first one, try to work the second one the same way. That way you'll get them looking the same on both sides. And a single crochet back to the start of our round. So that leaves us with just 17 stitches in our round. And at this point, if you are using the big eyes for this overall appearance, now is the time we're going to snap them in. If you're going for the realistic eyes, you don't need to snap anything in at this point and you can skip ahead. So I'm using 20mm safety eyes for this one today, and they need to go in just behind row 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to plonk one in on either side and then I'll work out if they're in the right spot. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can even like take your body piece and sit it over the front of the mouthpiece. Pinch the fin so it's sitting flat as well. And just see if you've got your eyes in the right spot. I think this one here is right, but I think this one here is too high. And you can see that when I'm looking at it front on. This one here looks too high. So I'm going to move that down by 1 stitch. Maybe one more. That looked pretty good though. Yeah, I think one up. So I know that by the time I sew them on, these will look crooked to me. That's just the way it is. Before I snap the backs on though, I am just going to stuff my head and see if that shifts anything. And I'm only placing kind of a little bit of stuffing in the top and middle part of the head. We're not really trying to stuff down into the jowls or really up into the fin. So yeah, it's kind of just stuffing that middle part of the head. So, And I think that's pretty good for a location. So in case you were wondering, the stems of my eyes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches away from one another, but visually that's closer to 6 across the top of the nose there. I'm going to remove the stuffing, putting it in a different pile so I can put the exact same stuffing back in. And we're going to snap these backs on. And we're not going to get clicky noises. So don't expect any. These ones don't click, which is very sad. Huh, you're making a liar out of me. That was a pleasant surprise. Okay, stuffing back in. So now with those eyes attached, we're going to move into row 12. Alrighty, for anybody who skipped ahead, we've just put a little bit of stuffing into the head as well, leaving like the jowls and the tip of this fin free. Now, heading into row 12, we're going to work a single crochet 3 together. Two single crochet, 1 and 2, 7 half double crochet, two more single crochet, 1 and 2, and a single crochet 3 together. There we go, leaving you with 13 stitches in your round. And for this last round, we're going to work a decrease, a single crochet, 7 half double crochet, a single crochet, and a decrease. Then finish off. Yeah, that does still leave an opening at the back of the head. That's okay. We're going to treat that the same way we treat the openings at the backs of the legs. But one other thing that half double crochet has done for us is given this fin just a very slightly different texture to the rest of the head, which I find quite pleasing. So that is what your head should look like if you're using the big safety eyes for today. And we're just going to pop this to one side, and I'm going to cover really quickly how to make the like realistic eyes if you'd prefer to go that way. So as you can see here, we already have one pinned on to my first little guy here. I'm going to just pop that eye out now. Oh, buddy. So we just need to make this little green piece, and I'm going to do that by grabbing my green. And we're going to start with a magic ring of 6, but don't pull it overly tightly because we do need to get the stem of a safety eye down into the middle of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, like so. And we're then going to work 6 back loop single crochet. So what that means is if you look at your stitches on top, they should have a loop on the side facing you and a loop on the side facing away. So when we're working in the back loops, we're working our hook through just the loop on the side of the work facing away from us and working our stitches in those. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. See how that leaves those little front loops free? That's going to like form a little frame around our 9mm safety eye. So then continuing on in the back loops only, we are going to work 6 increases around. 1, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And at this point, you can take your 9mm safety eye and just pop it in through the starting magic ring. See how those spare front loops kind of form that cute little frame around it. My goodness, I did not get backs out for any of my eyes today. And snap the back on. In our final row, we're just going to work 12 single crochet around, working in the back loops only. And there is our eyeball. You can finish off. So now we have 2 little peepers for my my example. Either side of the wee little face. Now there is one other optional piece that you can make today, and that is just this little tongue piece that you can make as long or as short as you'd like. And I will chuck the pattern for this up on the screen now because it's just the world's most basic tube. We started with a magic ring of 6, and then I've done 7 rows of 6 single crochet, but you could do as many or as few as you like to just create a little tongue if you want one. Which brings us to the assembly. So there's actually kind of 3 major techniques we need to cover regarding assembly here today. And the one I'm going to start with is what we're going to use to close off the back of the legs and the back of the crest at the back of the head. So you can do this with a hook. If you did the 12 days of crochet last year, then you have done this technique many, many times already. But let me just show you it today. I'm going to be using a needle for it, but I will be using a giant plastic needle because, as I mentioned, it can be done with a hook pretty easily. It barely counts as sewing, in my opinion. So what we're going to be doing is closing off the back of each of these little legs. Now, when we formed these legs, we skipped 17 stitches in total. It was 8 up each side and then 1 in the middle. So I want you to flatten these legs so that you can find 8 pairs of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to anchor my yarn at the base of the first leg. There we go. So I'm going to find my first pair of stitches, and starting from the top stitch, I'm going to work my needle down through just the front loop of it, and then through the bottom stitch, just the front loop of it. So picking up both of those loops on my needle, working down towards myself, and work a little stitch. Then back to the top, and the next pair of stitches, we're going to pick up the front loop only, and the front loop only. And in this case, front loop means the outer loops. And that leg is determined to get in the way. And down and towards myself, back to the top. And I'm going to do that for each of the 8 pairs of stitches running down the leg. And by working this in pairs of stitches, you're going to make sure that your legs come out straight and it stops them going all like wibbly wobbly or wonky or anything. So always working the needle down towards myself and counting as I go to make sure I do get all 8 pairs, because it can be a little easy to miss a pair right at the top near the foot. Okay, so with 8 pairs found and stitched through, you can give it a little pull to tighten it up. You'll see we get this lovely little straight seam all the way down the leg. Then we are going to find the stitch between the toes, and if you can't identify the stitch specifically, just work your needle up between the toes. And then over the top and down through the leg back into the body. And there is our first little leg done. And because all of these legs are the exact same size, this process is the same for the other 3 as well. And the process is the same for the other 3 as well. And I'm just going to take care of that now. So there we go. All 4 of those legs have now been stitched shut. They are a little higgledy-piggledy, but I actually kind of like that in the context of it being a lizard. Lizards always feel like they're just about ready to, like, at any point, you know? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do on the body here is completely optional, but I'm going to go through it and I'm just going to add this like little fleck of an alternating color to it. I just think it adds a little bit of a fun detail. And for me today, I'm going to be using this like color changing yarn just because it's a bit of fun. But even if you just had like a plain color to use, I think this could come out quite nicely as well. So once again, with my plastic needle, I'm going to start in this like row that was sort of just before this front leg. And I'm just going to weave in and out between the stitches. I think it's called a ladder stitch. Until I reach the other side. And then I'm going to go under to the next row and do the same thing back. And I'm going to continue that until I reach the base of the tail. You can continue it down the tail if you preferred as well. This is just one of those things of like, do however much you feel your chameleon needs. And I'm working this just between the gaps between the stitches as well, which does make it pretty easy and honestly a fairly soothing activity in my opinion. It's like sewing without all of like the stress of sewing. You don't have to be perfect about where you turn around either. It's like, I'm trying not to go down onto the legs because I want it just across the back. So when I reach approximately the end of the row, I just make sure that I'm moving down a row when I'm under, not when I'm over. And back we go. Just tucking me ends away. Yeah, and it just gives him that little bit of a sparkle. So now we actually have to get into the proper assembly. So for this one today, that just basically involves sewing the head to the face. Though if you do want to attach the tongue, it's a good time to sew the tongue to the top of the jaw first. And then when we sew the face over the top, everything is all anchored as it should be, right? Blah. So this headpiece also has an opening at the back of the fin, and just like we closed the legs, we're going to be flattening this into 5 pairs of stitches and then 1 stitch at the top, and just lacing it shut. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up through that final stitch, front loop only. Pull it tight to like close any little openings and make sure that your seam is sitting nicely, and then back down into the head and tuck it away. There we go. Just tuck in any loose ends that are still remaining on this piece at this point. And now we are ready to attach the head to the body. So grabbing our body, we want to position the head over the top of this bottom jaw piece so that it nestles nicely in between the jowls, which are not really jowls, they're really a jawbone. And you want to make sure that the front of that bottom jaw lines up nicely with the front of the top jaw as well. So I'm just pinning mine down in the corners there. So he's not a very confident lizard. He's not super sure of himself, and that's okay. And all we're going to do is sew this headpiece on from this corner of the mouth all the way across the back, round to this corner of the mouth. That way, regardless of whether or not you decided to attach the tongue, you will be able to like tuck a little something into his mouth if you wanted to. Just makes it a little bit more fun. There we go. So take those pins out. Blah. So you can have a snack now if he wants one, or your tongue, which you should have already sewn on if you were going to, can be poking out there. And the last thing we have to do here, for this one here anyway, because we still so the last thing we have to do for this one here is roll up the tail. Now, I don't know if this is strictly true for all chameleons, but certainly every chameleon I've ever seen, the tail rolls under. So lay your little guy on his back and then roll that tip of the tail up towards yourself so that it's rolling under the body into a cute little cinnamon roll. And I'm just going to like pin that in place. And then I'm just going to like work a couple of little stitches to lock it in position. Now, of course, if you wanted to insert wire into that tail, you wouldn't have to do this. It would just roll up on its own. You could use it to attach it to things and all sorts of stuff. I've tried to leave a lot of room here for you all to customize the mobility and personality of this guy, hence the 2 pairs of eyes, the optional tongue, the ability to add wire to the tail instead of just creating a swirl, you know? Like, you got some options here. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Just a couple little stitches should lock that in place. There we go, and trim that off. So that is one finished little chameleon, but for anybody who wanted to make the realistic eyes, the little eyes, let's just sew them onto this guy now. So we want them in basically the same position as we put our large eyes, which was over the top of row 7, and that means like centered over the top of row 7. So if you imagine that spoke is lining up with row 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You don't actually want to poke it in that way. You just want to kind of line it up over the top. Put some little pins in place. You do want it to bubble outwards in quite a fun way, so don't insert like the spoke of it down in between the stitches or anything. And remember, chameleon eyes are allowed to point in opposite directions if they want. So you don't even have to worry about lining them up overly well. They just kind of have to be in approximately the same place on the head. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one on the other side. There we go. So with those pinned on, I'm just going to take a little of my green yarn and just sew around the edge. Take out all the pins, tuck in all the ends, and we're done. And there are our finished chameleons. Do let me know in the comments if you end up making one of these, and if you do, what kind of eyes did you go with? I got so stuck trying to make a decision that I kind of ended up, like I said, just providing both to you, but I want to kind of gauge which one y'all think is better. So I'm going to keep an eye on the comments and let's just see if we can't work it out together. So yeah, there is our finished chameleon. He's looking not super sure of himself, but I hope you had fun making him with me today. Okay, bye!